Hi everyone, welcome to the Pro Insight video series. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Nader. We are here to tackle real-world career challenges and share practical insights.
Each episode, we'll dive into important topics to help you navigate your professional journey.
Let's get started and help you thrive in your career. All right, everybody. Welcome to the second video in the Pro series for Aspire Career Services. And today's subject, we are going to go over something that I think all of us has went through. So I'm joined here by Matt, and we're going to have a couple of questions that we are going to ask him right here about the subject matter that we're going to talk about, which is managing overwork and burnout. How many times have we felt like we're burned out, that there's overload of work, and how to navigate it? So Matt today is going to help us navigate through that a little bit. And I want to start it with you. And I want to ask you, Matt, what are some early signs of burnout that professionals should be aware of?
Sure. I think it starts out with the early signs would be not being able to execute or come through for other people, whether it be personal or even professional. To give you an example, if let's say that you're managing your normal workload, but then you find yourself making excuses like, I'll do this later. You know, we tell ourselves that in our head all the time, and we do that enough to where eventually we're met with someone's expectations to deliver something, whether it be, once again, a personal obligation or a professional obligation, and we find ourselves not being able to deliver it. So I would say that's probably sign number one. And not just that it happens once, but you notice it's happening often, and people are noticing, you know, and of course you feel bad, they're concerned, and you're stuck with kind of analyzing, why am I doing this, or what's going on? How am I feeling? That's definitely sign number one. Sign number two is that someone just asks you, are you okay? If you, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like whether it be, you know, coworker, whether it be boss, whether it be someone that cares about you, whether it be someone, you know, personally, your spouse, your friend, but they say, hey, are you okay?
So they notice a change.
They notice a change. Because oftentimes, here's the thing is, we don't notice those changes, right? Yes. We're navigating our normal workflow, our life, things that are going on, and we're not even going to notice it. But other people do. They see it from the outside and they notice something's wrong. And if you have good people in your life, they're going to notice. They're going to say, hey, what's going on? Once again, that's a really good opportunity to utilize our services. And I know I probably say that a lot in these videos, but not having someone that can recognize those things could be detrimental to your career. Could be detrimental to your progress in your career. That could be happening to you right now. You could be out there wondering, why am I not getting these opportunities? Why am I constantly feel like I'm struggling? Why do I feel like I'm constantly having to start over at a new employer or a new industry? When in reality, maybe you just don't have anybody inside your circle that can recognize and pick up and see things before they get too bad, before they get to the point where it starts affecting your ability to do your job. So I would definitely say that's probably the second early sign, is just someone saying, hey, are you okay? And then lastly is just the feeling of loss of enjoyment in what you do. You know, everybody decides to, majority of the time, decides to accept a position or do something because they have an interest in it, you know? To give you an example, I would never accept a job organizing closets. You have these, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have these professional organizers that are out there, and you can hire them and they'll come in and organize your entire home, label everything, make everything look nice and pretty. I would never sign up for a job like that. Reason being is not only am I not good at it, but I have zero interest in it. If anything, it stresses me out. I don't want to do something like that. So we all, for the most part, pick jobs that are interesting to us, something that sparks our interest or we want to learn more about, that we're intrigued by. And that's where you get kind of that nervousness but excitement before you start a new job.
Yeah.
Because it's an opportunity to explore something brand new. Well, eventually that feeling will fade, but when you get to the point where it's no longer interesting, but it's beginning to be where you dread it. You get that feeling inside. If you find yourself sitting in your car and having to take a deep breath before you go in, then that I would say is most definitely the third early sign. If you're starting to dread what you do, if people are asking you if you're okay, and if you find yourself not being able to meet other people's expectations, I'd say that's probably your first one. And it's usually because in your head you're like, I'll do it later.
Yeah. I actually experienced myself the second one.
Yeah.
Where everybody started asking me like,
are you okay?
Are you okay, Nader? Are you okay, Nader? And I'm like, why does everybody keep telling me this? I am totally fine. But when I dug deep into it and when I spoke to someone, I found out, yes, that's absolutely burnout. I needed to take some load off my shoulders, of course.
Yeah, because they were able to recognize that something was wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the next question, which is, can you share with us and to the viewers right here some effective techniques for communicating workload issues to your boss when feeling like you're letting the team down? And we all know that feeling is very dreadful.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. That's probably one of our greatest fears, is not being able to handle what people expect from us. Whether it be, once again, a peer that's asking for your help on something, or whether it be, especially if it's your boss that's asking you for something, is you have this fear of not being able to deliver, and be able to do that, because then you definitely feel like you're letting them down. But that same fear drives us to say yes to things that we shouldn't say yes to. Or it drives us to agree to things that are not realistic or that we can't realistically accomplish. So really the best way is to recognize those feelings. Recognize when you have a feeling of, I'm going to be letting someone down, or I don't want to let people down. And after you recognize those feelings, is be okay communicating those feelings. Because A, we ignore the feelings, and B, we're definitely afraid or we don't want to communicate them out of fear of, once again, being looked at a certain way or letting people down. So really what you have to do is in those moments, whenever someone is talking to you about something and is asking you if you can help them, or is talking about a project, and normally you would just jump on it because you want to show that you're being proactive and not reactive in your position. Maybe you're gunning for a promotion and you want to show them what you can do, or maybe you just have a very high work ethic period. When that happens, you have to realistically assess and ask yourself, okay, am I saying yes because I want to please this person and I don't want to let them down and I don't want to confront those feelings? Or am I saying yes because I can actually deliver? Because,
absolutely.
So
this is one more reason to pursue, of course, professional mentoring or the coaching services that we provide, because sometimes you will need a coach or a mentor that will be able to identify these things and guide you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to tell you if, what you're thinking is realistic, or if it's, you're stretching yourself too thin. But if it is the second one, which is you're not able to deliver, you have to be okay with communicating it, because here's the truth. And someone once taught me this. It was actually someone that worked for me. And I firmly believe, guys, you can learn. If you think that you can't learn from the people below you, you're kidding yourself. If you're in a leadership position, please hear me. Humble yourself and realize that you can learn just as much from the people below you as you can above you.
Absolutely.
And if you're below someone, don't be afraid to share with them exactly what you think, because once again, they can learn from you. But I learned that it's better to, under promise and over deliver versus the opposite.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so excited about something, or we don't want to let them down, so we over promise something, even though we're hesitant or we don't know if we can actually deliver it. And that never ends well.
Absolutely.
Ever. So always, under promise and over deliver.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that once again applies to your boss.
Mm-hmm.
Is if they're asking you something, don't say you can do it if you truly can't do it. They would rather you be honest and say, you know what, I don't know that I could deliver on that right now, but what does it look like if I could do that in this time frame? Or what if I could do a piece of it? Would that help you? Negotiate that into something that is more manageable. And it might be just that you just can't do it, period, at all.
I see.
Yeah.
So you talked about some techniques in order to communicate those workload issues. Now, what if we ask you, like, what self-care routines do you recommend for these professionals to prevent burnout?
Yeah. Because to be honest, a lot of that, we associate burnout with workload, right? And that's what the title of this is. And it's important to recognize, workloads impact on your burnout. But I would say that just as equally is your mindset, right? Like what's going on mentally, your mental health, what are your self-care routines on outside of work or even at work? And it really, once again, goes back to your personality. The better you understand yourself, the better you can take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't think of that, or don't realize it, or don't put the work in to truly discover who they are, how their mind is wired, what works best for them. People say all the time, well, I think I would know. I know myself better than you do. And that's a dangerous statement, It really is. It's a dangerous statement because it's not always true. It's not always true. We think...
I'll say most of the time it's not true.
Most of the time it's not true. Just because we think that that we know ourselves the best because we are ourselves. But in reality, we don't take the time to discover who we are. We don't take the time to discover what makes us tick and how we're wired. So that's the first step is take the time to figure out who you are. And once again, I'm going to bring it back to Aspire. That is our method, guys. If you want to know what our method is, or what you can expect in a mentoring session, or even a leadership session, if you start mentoring with us, is exactly that, is that we take the time to help you discover, rediscover, define who you are and how you operate. You're going to discover, how you prefer to be communicated to, how you learn new concepts and skills, the most effective ways for you to apply those based off of your natural strengths of the things that you're good at, and then how to recognize and reward yourself, or expect reward and recognition from others when you make progress. So we look at those 4 main areas to really help determine a strategy for you to move forward. So I think this is the exact same thing, is you have to know those 4 things about yourself, so that way you can identify what self-care is going to work best for you. Because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Like, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So, and this might sound crazy to some people, but a self-care technique for me is just going out, turning off my phones, or maybe turning them on silent, and enjoying quality time with friends. Period. Right? Because I'm an extrovert, and I know that, and I draw energy from others. And I want to be doing something that distracts my mind away from the things maybe that are burdening me, or the stress. But that, once again, doesn't work for everybody. Someone else might be like, oh, that sounds exhausting. Like if I'm stressed out because of work, I just want to go home, get in bed, and put on my pajamas, turn on Netflix, and just sit and do nothing. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that might work best for them. But here's what I would say, is that while those things are important and those things are good, you should always, start there. You can't end there. You know, those are the natural things that you want to do. Like I want to go out and, you know, hang out with people and distract my mind. Some people want to go, you know, hide in their bed. But it can't end there. And that's where I would say majority of people's self-care ends. It starts and it ends. You know what I mean?
It's not a continuous process.
It's not. And that's really their only method. Another thing with self-care is taking time away from the things that cause you stress, but then also is talking with someone else. You have to have someone that you can trust, that is on the outside of your circle, where there's not consequences or there's not bias.
Yeah.
Think about that. Most people inside of their circle have two things. They have people professionally and people personally inside their circle. But here's the consequences of that is that everything that comes out of your mouth, everything you share has consequences, because either they're going to be biased towards you for that information, or there's going to be feelings involved, or there are personal stakes involved. And the feedback and the things that you get from them is not always going to be quality. You know, and that's where it's important to have someone on the outside that you can talk to outside of that circle, whether it be counseling. Counseling is always good. We're not going to say that it's not good. It's absolutely good. But what if you had something continuous that almost works as a preventative? You know, the reason we end up in mental crisis often is because we hold on to things for too long.
Absolutely.
We don't process them.
Totally
we don't get them out. And once again, that's where our services really come into play, is you have an opportunity to get those things out consistently.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I recently had someone that came to me and was like, "Hey, I am completely burned out. I feel like it's insanely a workload." And my first question to that person was, "When was the last time you've taken a vacation or time off?"
Right.
And they said 8 months ago.
Oh no.
And I was like, "Here's the answer for you."
Yeah.
Another form of self-care, from my point of view as well, is to regularly take time off.
Yes.
When available, and not feel guilty
No.
about taking time off ever inside your job, because you need to be well built and rested and taking care of yourself in order to perform your job duties. So,
even if that means taking an extended weekend, we're afraid to do that sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But that all relies on communication with your team and your manager and everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, next question is, and which is the last question in this segment right here, is how can someone set boundaries at work to manage their workload better and avoid reaching a point of burnout?
Over communicate. The key word is set boundaries, and you can't just set boundaries in your mind and pretend like they're there. When you set those boundaries, they need to be well defined, but then communicated to the people around you. Communicated to your boss, communicated to your coworkers. Meaning, you know, if you have a set time that's family time.
Good point.
Yeah. If there's a set time that's family time, make sure everybody knows. Be like, hey, after 7, that's my family time.
So it's not just in my brain right here.
Correct.
It's actually communicated to everybody.
Yes, because then you're getting frustrated when people are calling you or texting you during that family time, and you're like, this is my family time. And you're like, but here's the thing is you didn't tell them. So, and here's the thing too, is that we always fall back on, you know, well, I told you, but you may have told that person once. But guess what? Life happens, guys.
Yes.
and they've probably forgotten. So this is where, you know, regular reminders, maybe as something, you know, conflicts with that, you just remind them, hey, just a reminder, that's my family time. Or, you know, in July, you know, I take a vacation this time every single year. Or, hey, you know, I like to try to take, you know, extended weekend X amount of times a year. But then tell them why, you know. People need to know the why behind the what. So not just, hey, that's my family time, but hey, that's my family time because I've got things going on at other times, and one of my goals in life is to be a good father. And part of being a good father is spending that quality time with my kids. You know, maybe you didn't get that when you were younger, but it's a priority for you now as you're a parent. So telling people the why behind the what will really help them connect, understand, and accept it.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, being under that workload or burnout will have you will have you in a mood of frustration to be able to communicate these things. So if you are going to over communicate, just like Matt said right here, just make sure that you have dealt with these frustrations first, because sometimes your communication is going to come out as like, hey, don't talk to me, don't get near me, because this is my boundary, this is my set time. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that you got to take care of that as well, because you don't want to sound aggressive or disrespectful towards anybody, but at the same time, you'll have the ability to set your own boundaries and have your own freedom doing all of these things.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to tell them the why behind the what, because when you're telling them why those things are important or why you establish those boundaries, then it kind of takes the emotion out of it, you know, and then they understand, because they're human too.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Matt. This was the end of this segment right here. You guys stay tuned for future videos. And if you have any questions or you need any information, please go to aspirecareerservices.com. We can't wait to see you guys follow the next videos, and thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of the Pro Insight video series. We hope you found it valuable and insightful. Don't forget to join us next week for a new topic and more expert advice. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and keep thriving in your career. Aspire Career Services, LLC, guiding careers, cultivating leaders.